Hi there, and a very warm welcome to my PRINCe2 2017 primer. I'm Dave Litton, and I shall be your tutor for the next 18 modules and take you from where you are now to being able to pass both the PRINCE2 2017 Foundation and Practitioner exams. As you're about to see, my PRINCE2 2017 primer is split into 18 modules, this obviously being the first, and within each module there will be a series of short lessons. So by way of a general introduction, let me start by giving you a guided tour of what you and I are going to be covering. Now first of all, if you're familiar with my primers, then you'll notice some very important and beneficial changes to my PRINCE2 2017 primer. And most of these changes have been the result of previous customer comments. The first thing you'll notice, of course, is that these high-definition videos are streaming rather than being downloaded. And certainly, these days, everybody wants streaming videos. Let's face it, who wants to download large clunky files only to get lost or misplaced when you have a problem with your computer? Another important aspect is that I've reduced the lesson size. Yes, there's more of them, but they're shorter, generally 20 minutes or less, some are a little longer, giving you the knowledge you need in smaller, bite-sized chunks. The other thing you'll notice is that all of my videos are now true widestream with a 16:9 aspect ratio. I've also, again on the basis of feedback, rather than giving you large handbooks, since I've redesigned my training into 18 modules, then you'll have 18 handbooks, making it far more convenient for those who wish to print them out or view them, again in smaller bite-sized chunks. You'll also notice that my PRINCE2 2017 primer has been expanded from the previous 2009 version, and this is for a very good reason. My customers found that they were writing far too many notes as I talked around the subject, and what they wanted was a better balance between what they saw on the screen and what I said, so I've included all those nuggets of extra information to save you having to take notes. And yet another new feature is the added bonus of including exercises and the exam syllabus items at the end of every single handbook. So that, for example, when you're covering the initiating a project process, you'll have relevant exercises and exam samples relevant to that particular part of the syllabus. But of course, unless you're brand new to PRINCE2, you'll know that the last major update was back in 2009. So it's been a long 8 years since the PRINCE2 official manual went through any form of update. It's been a long time coming, but it's well worth it. Therefore, the new structure of the official manual, along with the exam syllabus, contains many expanded items. And since I've been teaching PRINCE2 since 1996, it's been my experience that it'll be at least 5 years before another major update is needed. So this will take you well into 2022 and beyond. That said, let's you and I have a quick look at some of the changes. Okay, the major one which you'll see is the tailoring of PRINCE2 to the needs of basically different organisations and project environments. However, you'll be pleased to know that the 7 principles that underpin PRINCE2 have not changed in any way. You'll find restructuring of the themes guidance to accommodate specific examples of tailoring. Now this is a good thing and adds real value to the official PRINCE2 guide, Managing Successful Projects in a Project Environment. There's also extra clarification around the link between the themes and the principles upon which they stand. And probably the biggest difference to you as an individual is that once you become an accredited PRINCE2 practitioner, you have some choices about how you maintain your certification. Yes, you can still sit the re-registration exams, which occur for an individual approximately every 5 years, or you can join the PRINCE2 membership, where you pay an annual fee to keep your education updated without the need to take any re-registration exams. So although you won't really need to do this until you've become a PRINCE2 practitioner, once you pass first time, as I'm confident you will, if you then go over to www.axlos.com/professional-development, you'll find all the information you need about joining the PRINCE2 membership. And as you saw on my introduction slide, you'll know that PRINCE2 is an official trademark owned by Axlos Limited. Okay, let's move on and look at what my PRINCE2 primer contains. As I said, you've got 18 modules, and for your convenience, each module has been split into anywhere between 3 and a maximum of 9 video lessons. Again, these are much shorter, with the design aim of being about 20 minutes in length each. This will better enable you to carry out your preparation at times that you can more easily fit around your busy professional and personal life. On the train, for example, if you're travelling, over lunch, or grabbing a quick half an hour when you're back at home. So I recommend that you print this slide out as a top-level reference point for you in your studies. Module 1, which you're watching right now, is a general PRINCE2 introduction and overview. And these little red circles here tell you exactly how many lessons contained within each module. This has 4, an introduction, then an overview, then looking at the project manager in PRINCE2, and then lesson 4 is looking at the project environment. Module 2 covers my PRINCE2 process model. That has 5 lessons in it, covering the process model itself, the PRINCE2 principles, an overview of the themes, and my very helpful PRINCE2 roadmap. Module 3 has 4 lessons in it, and this is all about the new chapter that's been introduced within the PRINCE2 manual called Tailoring and Adopting PRINCE2. Module 4 is on the first process, that's starting up a project, and you have 6 lessons within that module. Bringing us to Module 5, which is on the organisation theme and contains 7 lessons. Module 6 covers the business case theme, and that contains 6 lessons. Module 7, we look at the initiating a project process containing 7 lessons, and then Module 8, the risks theme with 6 lessons. And you can see what I'm doing here as I'm breaking the official manual, here's a snapshot over here, into logical sections, and unlike the manual, which is just split into all of the themes and all of the processes, put simply, I'm giving you this in a logical sequence of learning. Okay, continuing, Module 9, this is on the quality theme, containing 6 lessons. Module 10 is that very important product-based planning technique, and I've included 4 lessons in that. Following closely behind it, because obviously it's closely aligned, is Module 11, the plans theme. Now there's a lot to cover in that, so what I've done is I've split it down into 9 short video lessons. Module 12 is on the directing a project process, containing 7 lessons. Bringing us to Module 13, managing a stage boundary process, 5 lessons. Module 14, controlling a stage. This is where the project manager lives, if you will, and a very important and central part of PRINCE2. So you have 8 lessons there, the second largest module. Module 15 is on managing product delivery, which is where your specialist team lives and breathes, and it's where the products get created. 4 lessons within Module 15. And Module 16 is the closing a project process, containing 5 lessons. Just 2 more to go. Module 17, with 5 lessons, is on the change theme, and Module 18 is the progress theme, containing 4 lessons. So, a bit of a mouthful this slide, and certainly this first video will be closer to 30 minutes long because of the important content that I want to introduce to you first. Don't forget that I'm not just a voiceover, you have my email, and I'm here to help you all the way, not just with the information and content I give you within my video training, but also for the odd occasion when you want some clarification, you can always get in touch with me. Obviously, with so many students and so many class sizes, please be aware that I'm only one man, so you've got me as a backstop, if you will, should you need any urgent matters discussed. So let's quickly talk about the PRINCE2 Primer learning sequence. This is a suggestion. We all learn in different ways. It won't be any surprise for you to know that it makes sense from the very start that some of your download files, and I'm talking about here the documents, it would be a very good idea to create a desktop folder to store all your files in for easy access. If you're old school like me, you'll probably prefer to print out the handbooks, but these days many folks prefer to view their handbooks on their computers. So if you're old school, by all means print out the handbooks and the reference material. I'd suggest each module as you go. That way you'll gradually build a reference library as you move through the various elements of PRINCE2. So watch the videos in module order would be my recommendation, taking notes should it be necessary as you go. So carry out the module exam samples is step 4. You have self-test exercises and quizzes, plus the other documents within each module. And I've learned from many years' experience as a trainer that learning this in bite-sized chunks and keeping focused on particular areas is the best way, rather than completing the course and then starting to build your exam taking skills. Do it as you go is my advice. Step 5 falls into that same model, revising the foundation and practitioner topics, and use the videos to fix any revision areas. Yes, indeed, don't expect that you'll only need to watch these videos one time. Many times that's the case, but sometimes you may want to just go back and look at a small portion of a video just to refresh some particular aspect. Indeed, by carrying out many of these exercises, you'll learn of areas that you need to just go back and refresh your mind. Step 6, do take the foundation sample exam PowerPoint, which I've conveniently set up in a set of PowerPoint slideshows. If it just so happens you don't have Microsoft Office, then you can use the free PowerPoint viewer to go through these. It's far more fun than sitting down with a paper and pencil and marking yourself as you go. Doing it on screen is a lot more high energy. So once you've gone through all of the videos, step 7, I would advise that you take the practitioner sample exam and score yourself. This in and of itself will allow you to see what areas you need to go back and revise some more, so you may need to go back to one of these previous steps. I don't need to tell you step 8, it's really that you are now fully ready. Go and take both exams and pass at your first try. Oh yes, and do let me know when you've passed. It absolutely makes my day to hear students that have been successful. Okay, a quick review now of the new syllabus and the new exams and some of the changes that you'll find both within my PRINCe2 2017 primer and of course in the official manual. The good news is you still have the 7 standard principles, the 7 processes and the 7 themes. And if you've picked up on this already, within each process there are what PRINCE2 calls activities. These are all pretty much the same. Some have been renamed slightly, but there's only one extra process that I've found in the whole manual, and that's the first activity within the initiating a project process. Okay, let's go through some of these points then. You'll be delighted to know that configuration management has been removed, and quite right. It's a set of skills in and of itself, and those that provide configuration management will be the experts. Of course, PRINCE2 needs to dovetail in with configuration management, so you will find some of the artifacts, if you will, used within configuration management. After all, it is important as change control, and that, as you might imagine, is still within PRINCE2. The other difference you'll find is the new manual contains key messages, definitions and tips in special coloured dialog boxes. Yes, I've included those in my slides as well. The biggest change, probably in terms of documentation, you'll remember the PID. That stands for the Project Initiation Documentation. That's still there, as you'd imagine. But you used to have 4 strategies. For example, the risk management strategy. These are now more correctly called approaches, and I think that's a great improvement. In other words, you'll now find the risk management approach, which does what it says on the tin. It's how you should approach applying risk management within each individual project. In other words, it's part of tailoring. The initiating project, as I've said, has a new first activity called Agree the Tailoring Requirements, which sets the scene for everything that you'll include within the PID itself. Each process now has a tailoring guidelines section, and that's another reason why I've included extra lessons within each module. Also, there is guidance given for not only projects and programs, but also portfolios within each section, and that too I've included. The other change you'll notice is that in PRINCE2 2009 you had something called Corporate and Program Management, and they're the folks that issued the mandate to kick off a project in the first place, and it's who the executive of the project board reported up into. You'll now find throughout my slides the notion of corporate/program management, or often I just call it program/customer. Quite rightly, because in many cases your project will be funded by the customer rather than senior management within your own organisation. So they're the 3 options that you may find from project to project. There's a new chapter on PRINCE2 tailoring and adapting, And I mentioned it in the previous slide, do you remember, in Module 3. And with the launch some 2 years ago now of PRINCE2 Agile as a separate course of study, advice on the Agile perspective is given throughout, and you'll be pleased to know by the same folks who authored the PRINCE2 Agile manual. And you'll also find added information on general tools and techniques, such as Gantt charts, S-curves, risk techniques, and so on. Now on to the exam. You may have read that the Practitioner exam is harder than before. Well, I'll explain to you why you shouldn't be unduly worried about that. So the foundation exam syllabus has not changed much, very small elements, and relies on the student being able to recall, recognise, describe and explain PRINCE2 elements. It's still a closed book exam, which means you take it without any reference material in front of you, and it's 60 minutes long, 1 hour, and there are 60 questions to answer, rather than the old 75. Now, there are 4 question styles that may be used, and I'm about to explain them to you. But first you need to know that the pass mark is 33 marks, which is 55%. And just like before, the foundation exam is fairly easy to pass, most folks do, and you'll certainly sail through it after going through my PRINCE2 primer. So here's one type of question style used in the foundation exam. You'll immediately recognise it if you have any experience of the previous version. Identify the missing words in the following sentence, and it'll give you a quote, blah 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 blah, update the, and a question mark, and continuing. And then you have a choice of what is it. In this case, I've given an example of a product. Is it the project initiation document? Is it the risk management approach? Is it the lessons log? And so on and so forth. The other style you'll see, again multi-choice, is, for example, you're given a simple straight question. I've just chosen this as merely an example, the purpose of the change theme, and you'll have 4 statements or definitions, and you need to choose the right one. It's worth saying that in the foundation exam, every question only has 1 right answer. The third type is where you'll be given which statements about the quality review are correct. Again, just an example here. It does this, it does that, it does this, it does that. Again, there's only 1 right answer, and it'll either be it's number 1 and number 2, number 2 and 3. In other words, each of the 4 permutations. And the fourth and final approach goes something like this. And these are greatly reduced, you'll be pleased to know. Which roles should not? In other words, it's a negative question. Role M, role N, etc. Again, I've just chosen roles as an example. Those are often tricky because in the heat of the exam itself, your brain misses the word not, and you go straight to these and choose the one that is, which of course is a wrong answer. What about the practitioner exam? Okay, well this is still open book, and this means of course the only material you can bring into the exam is the official PRINCE2 guide itself. You are allowed to mark that up in any way, write and scribble on any of the pages, put little mini post-it stickies in for easy reference, for example, 1 for each theme and 1 for each process, but you're not allowed to include or stick down any type of extra information. As an example here, you couldn't print out a page of information and insert it inside the manual. You'll be immediately disqualified. So it's an open book. It lasts 150 minutes, which is 2.5 hours, and there are 46 questions to answer. 35 of them are what is known as standard questions, and 11 are matching type. I'll explain in a moment. Just before I do, the pass mark is 38 marks, yet again 55%. So what do we mean about standard and matching? Well, the number of standard question items in the exam will be 68, and the number of matching question items equals 11. Now, if you're wondering why that's a larger number than the 46 questions, it's because these particular question items will have, for example, 3 sections, and I'll show you examples in the coming screens. So that each matching question has 3 items to be matched. So 3 11s are 33. What you've got to do is to apply and carry this out using PRINCE2 and apply the techniques and rules. In the exam, you'll be identifying connections and relationships between concepts plus information provided to solve problems in context. Well, doesn't that sound a mouthful? Don't worry, by the time you've gone through several exercises, you'll see exactly what that is all about. So here's an example of a standard question, and you'll immediately recognize it as being very similar to the foundation exam in structure. not in depth of course. The example I've chosen here, what should the recreation manager do as part of accept a work package activity for the refurbished bandstand? Here I've invented a particular scenario, which you'll get of course with the practitioner exam. And it's either A or B or C or D. So there's a standard example. What you'll find is, in the new exam, is that you'll be asked to assess and analyse information in context in order to reach a conclusion. And what the exam questions will be asking is for you to break the information into the component parts, understand how they relate to one another and PRINCe2, and then find evidence to either support or oppose a course of action or reasoning. Now these are hard and fast definitions, as indeed this is, and it all reads like a legal contract, and really don't worry about that. The whole purpose of you passing the practitioner exam is by proving that you can practice PRINCE2. And after all, isn't this doing exactly that? So please don't be overwhelmed in this first lesson about me throwing all this at you. It's there so you understand what's coming. So sit back and pay attention, and all will become clear as I take you through the various modules. The other type of practitioner exam question is called a matching example, and they will tell you to which it relates to. I've chosen one from the change theme. Again, this is totally invented, but it's an example of what you'll find. The launch event is planned to be held at a local hotel. 3 weeks before the event is due to take place, torrential rain causes severe flooding and the venue will no longer be available. But an out-of-town upmarket hotel is available for hire, but it is double the price of the original venue. So the examiner will just set a little sub-scene here and then describe the questions that are about to occur, usually about 3. So there are 3 actions being taken in response to the flooding. Which role, from A to E, should be responsible for carrying them out? Choose only one role for each action. Each role can be used once, more than once, or not at all. Very similar to the old exam style, I'm sure you agree. So what you'll get here is 3 questions, and I've chosen these as number 39, 40 or 41, simply where they occur within the structure of the exam you'll be taking. And what you need to do for each of these is to decide, and here's your A to E choices, which one of these roles would be involved with that. So despite all the legalese from the previous slide, it's actually not that hard, is it? I won't answer. I'll allow you to find the answer when we cover the change theme. Good. Well, there's a nice overview of both of the exams. Let me just start now in the final 2 slides just to introduce you to PRINCE2, if I may. Starting up with one of the reasons why PRINCE2, if you will, has become a worldwide success. I'm sure you'll be aware of the number of projects that fail in some way. Apart from outright failure, many of them will be coming in late and or overspending. So project failures, I'm afraid, are common. And the way in which to reduce, if not totally eliminate, project failure is to make sure everybody involved understands why the project's needed, what it must achieve, how it is to be achieved, and what the responsibilities of everyone involved exactly are. So I've picked out a list here of most of the general types of project failure you'll come across. Don't worry, you won't need to remember these. It's just to get you in the right mindset of exactly how PRINCE2 will help you in terms of becoming a better project manager, not to mention your career. So PRINCE2 can help fix all of these examples I've just picked. Lack of a valid business case and justification for the project in the first place. Yes, that's a real killer. You'd be surprised how many projects start without anyone really considering whether it's a good idea or not. Unclear scope. Scope, if you remember, is what's included and what isn't. You'll all know about dreaded scope creep, and that's probably the biggest project killer of all. Lack of clear objectives, either because they were never stated or because different people have different opinions of what the objectives are. Not a sensible project choice. I guess that sort of goes back to lack of a proper project justification. But many times it's that you have several choices of different projects and which one is the highest priority. So this is really around prioritizing which projects come first. Unrealistic assignment of budget and resources. Very often you'll find that a budget is allocated to a project rather than being properly thought through to start with and making it appropriate. And in a similar way, projects often get given the only resources that are available. Very often not enough, and very often not the right level of skills either. Misunderstood scope, I guess that goes back to point number 2 here, but more important than that, it's understanding exactly what the end product should be, and even more important, what is the desired outcome. A lack of communication with all stakeholders leads to different sets of expectations, and that's a very big reason why projects fail. Little definition of project roles and responsibilities, going back to this point I'm making here. This either means that particular responsibilities are missed altogether, or that different people have different opinions about whether they should be responsible or not. Poor estimation, causing time and budget overruns, and we'll be covering that hot topic within both planning and several of the processes. Inadequate planning of products, tasks and resources, not knowing how to plan the right way. Yes, a plan is a document, but you've got several steps to come before that. And it's no accident that early on, in fact in Module 10, I've included the product-based planning technique, so that you will know how to do it properly. Lack of measurables for progress and control. Often progress and forecasts are merely guessed at, rather than using critical thinking. The processes of initiating a project, controlling a stage, and managing product delivery will all give you the control you need. No agreed process for change control. We're back to scope creep again. And as you know, in Module 17, I'll be covering the change theme, which shows you exactly how to do that correctly. And poor quality of deliverables or products. This is often down to the deliverables not being properly defined within the first place. Probably going back to point 3 with a lack of clear objectives. That won't happen if you're running a PRINCE2 project. And finally, poor risk management, or no risk management. Risk management isn't just about sitting down and thinking through all the things that could go wrong, but then getting on with the project. It's a very mature and well understood management technique, and you'll learn all about that and how to do it within PRINCE2 within Module 8 when we look at the risk theme. So there we are, just a few causes of project failure. Don't let that get you down at all, because unlike the rest of the world, you're going to become a PRINCE2 practitioner, and you'll know how to fix all of these before they even become a problem. Just before we finish this first lesson, I want to go over the project and product life cycles. Very often a source of confusion. What you're about to see here is a very general top-level view, but it's something that is quite important and allows, if you will, you to scope the PRINCE2 methodology itself. I guess you understand the difference between the terms project and product, where the products are what you create within the project. However, it's the products that are used at the end of the project to ultimately deliver some form of business benefits. So let's look at this time frame I've set up for you. First of all, you have the product life, which is the longest life of all, well beyond the PRINCE2 project life cycle. Because once the PRINCE2 project finishes, it then goes into what's known as operational life. The product itself, and we're talking about the end product of the project, although not created at the beginning of the project, will be known and will be refined until ultimately it's released into the operational environment at the end of the project. Now in PRINCE2, you have what is known as pre-project preparation. That's not a management stage, it's merely a time frame where you prepare, as it says, before the project formally starts. The first thing that happens is that senior management sends you a project mandate, and this acts as the trigger to kick off a PRINCE2 project. Without going into detail, as I said, this is a high-level view. Here you have the project life cycle, or project life if you will. See clearly the product life is longer for obvious reasons, and these are just little example Gantt bars, if you will, showing activities being carried out throughout the project. Once the project finishes, the end product is passed into business as usual, or operational life, often called business as usual, BAU. And just like the rest of us, everything comes to an end of life at some point. If you're shipping a new computer system, there will be some point in the future, hopefully distant future, where that will be scrapped and replaced. And that is the point I'm making here at this end point. So, you have the project board direction and authority within PRINCE2, starting from pre-project right through to the end of it, and the executive of the project board owns the business case. That too starts its initial journey pre-project and continues after the project's finished until the end of life of the product itself. Within the project, within the management stages, then you have the project manager carrying out what PRINCE2 calls day-to-day management. A good definition. Now, the project manager doesn't make the products, the specialist team do. So it is they who create the products, ultimately coming together at the end of the project with the end product, which is passed into operational life. At the point when the project is finished, this now passes into operational life, where the customer or the user gets to realize the benefits from the end product of the project. So this is the before for the customer. They haven't got the new widget, whatever it is, and this is after. And the benefits will continue to be used throughout operational life. One point to add to this diagram, which is down in the detail, but it's worth saying, the agile approach to project management is growing, and it's included within the latest 2017 manual. And within agile, and indeed some traditional projects, you'll often have in some of the products passed into operational life during the project, in which case, of course, that would change this, where some benefits are started to be realized even while the project is continuing. Good. Well, that brings us nicely to an end of the first lesson. Can I say again, welcome aboard. This has been a rather long lesson, but there are lots of important things I needed to cover. So thank you for your time and attention, and you and I will meet up again in lesson 2. So, bye for now.